statistic while Senator Schubert was speaking. I took a look at a note I had. The Center for Labor Market Studies at Northeastern University released a report in July of 2004 using data between 2000 and 2004. And that indicated that 2 million illegal immigrants had displaced 1.3 million native-born and established immigrant workers in the United States. That is, 1.3 million native-born Americans or legal immigrants had lost their jobs. Now, the focus of that is that 27% of the displaced workers, 27% of that 1.3 million, were previously legally established legal immigrant workers. Thus, while native-born Americans are being harmed by levels of immigration, legal immigrant workers are being hurt proportionately even worse. So there's strong emphasis there that it's not just native-born Americans we're talking about this afternoon. Our next speaker is Representative Charles Thomas. Charles is in his first term in the North Carolina State Legislature, and he's doing an outstanding job. He has managed to get bills to the floor and even passed, despite overwhelming opposition. Charles, nice to meet you.
Thank you very much. I'll try not to be repetitive, because we won't be here all afternoon talking about the same thing over and over again. But I'm going to try and share with you some pieces of information that you may find interesting and helpful in your efforts. My friends, we do have a problem. We have a serious problem here. There is no easy solution at the state level. This is the final solution is going to have to come from the federal government. The Constitution essentially requires it. However, we are now in a situation where we are seeing where illegal immigration is following the path of least resistance. And what I mean by that is that as neighboring states are beginning to pass laws to make it harder and harder for one to operate as an illegal immigrant, those folks are moving to states that have more open laws that allow easier access to driver's licenses and so forth. Do you think North Carolina is on the easy side or the hard side? We're on the easy side. One of the bills that I was able to get passed through the House floor is a driver's license bill. Now, last session, the North Carolina General Assembly sort of played with the driver's license law a little bit and removed the I-10 issue, the individual taxpayer identification number issue. However, whether it was intentional or whether it was just one of those legislative oversights, that did not extend to duplicate driver's licenses. So right this minute, you can go online, and in fact, the DMV advertises it that it's as easy as 1, 2, 3 to receive a duplicate driver's license through the mail. You don't have to have much information about the person at all in order to get a duplicate copy of the license. I encourage you to go to the website and look at it. And it doesn't matter whether the driver's license was issued with a Social Security number or with an I-10. So I went to the DMV early in the session and went to the State Auditor's Office, and we looked at a lot of the numbers and how things were working. And I'll just tell you this, there's going to be a lot more data that comes out probably within the next 6 months or so that's going to be quite shocking from the Auditor's Office. It relates a lot to what Senator Schubert was saying, and folks that are registered to vote through motor voter registration, that we can now document got driver's licenses with Social Security numbers of dead people, Social Security numbers from infants. That's a very popular technique these days, is to use the Social Security number of an infant, because the North Carolina system, the way that it works, when it queries the federal database, all it looks for is the question is this a valid number? Is it within the valid issue range? So there is, you could have, a 2-year-old with a driver's license and so forth. But knowing the political climate in which we're operating, I knew that my ability to directly, influence this thing wholesale was going to be somewhat limited. And you do have to try and make a decision. Do I want to get something passed, or do I want to make a statement? In this case, we really need to get something passed. So House Bill 904 would require, and it did pass the House unanimously, in fact, those instant duplicate driver's licenses without Social Security numbers will go away if we can get this bill through the Senate. It's in Senate Judiciary Committee number 2, and your support there would be helpful. Another bill that has not, of course you're not surprised, has not been heard, is the North Carolina Illegal Immigration Prevention Act that I co-sponsored. It's House Bill 1485, and it has not been heard in committee. It was referred to the Committee on Homeland Security, and has not been heard and did not make the crossover deadline. But ostensibly, that bill would put in place in North Carolina the same type of restrictions that you see in place in Georgia and Oklahoma, which is some of the toughest state-level illegal immigration reform that there is. So while it's unlikely that in the current political climate that kind of bill is going to go anywhere, I will tell you that you do make a difference. When you contact the General Assembly and you use personal emails and personal telephone calls, members sit up and take notice. Members don't pay so much attention to form emails and things like that. A lot of them are computer generated with fake email addresses and so forth. When you get a personal email from someone that's got their personal contact information in it, or a personal telephone call, that makes a difference, and I would encourage you to continue to do that. Finally, I'll leave you with this. On the ID reform, we've heard discussion of real ID, and the federal government's going to take the leadership role, and you see people a lot of times using the military CAC card as an example of what a new real ID, driver's license and so forth will look like if it's issued. Well, we are now quite a few years past 9/11, right? This is a federally issued document. It's a pilot's license. Anybody notice what is just glaringly absent from a federally issued pilot's license? There's not even a picture of it. So for us to sit around and wait for the federal government to take action is kind of crazy. If this long after 9/11, pilot's licenses don't even have pictures on them, you can bet that we're playing a political game. Now, another thing, as far as the political, I said I'd finish with that, but I didn't tell the truth. As far as the political game part, there are people in both parties that have sort of acquiesced that people that are here illegally are going to vote, or they're somehow going to get citizenship, there's going to be this amnesty, or they're just going to vote anyway. Might as well court that vote. And when you look at this debate that goes on at the national and state level about that, I want you to keep that in the back of your mind as you look at it, and see if you don't notice certain politicians or groups of politicians on both sides, mind you, starting to try and court that vote a little bit so that they can be the one to take credit when the time comes that those folks are going to go to the polls, in the hopes that they'll pick up those votes. So be cautious of that, be aware of that, and I do appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you allowing me to come and speak to you. If my office can ever be of assistance to you, if you have problems with state government, we've been very effective in helping with constituent service issues. I sit on some 9 committees, so chances are whatever's happening to you, it probably comes through one of my committees in some way, shape, or form. But my email address is charlest@ncledge.net, and you can track bills and legislative progress on www.ncledge.net. I would encourage you to go to that website often. You can pull up the House and Senate calendars and see what we're actually doing. Some days we might be naming the state bullfrog, which we did a few months ago, or naming the official state bat. Other days we might be doing something that are going to raise taxes. So, thank you.